Hey there, fellow streakers. Welcome back from after Thanksgiving Day. Hopefully you survived Black Friday. Did you go out and do some shopping on Black Friday? That's what we want to know.
I think Black Friday is now Cyber Friday.
I guess it is Cyber Friday, huh? Because you didn't do any shopping. After.
Not out.
I mean, I guess you did do shopping, but not out and about at the mall.
Online, baby. Everything's online. Sit in the comfort of my home.
Did you ever envision that there would be a day where you would do all of your shopping online?
No, I don't do all of it, but boy, I sure do a lot more than I used to.
Oh man, do we ever?
A lot more.
A lot more.
I'm grateful, honestly, for the technology. It still blows my mind that I can sit and order all of these things and somehow the system is in place that I actually get them and in a pretty timely manner.
Yeah, I would love to see some of these distribution centers that are set up and how they
phenomenal.
Go from me clicking buy all the way through the internet, all the way over to the distribution center where it goes and it picks off of some shelf somewhere, something, or orders from some store somewhere and then puts it in a box with an address on it and ships it out to me.
Yep.
Have you ever noticed that some of the boxes that you get that have stuff shipped in it are huge and the thing is just a little tiny?
Yes, sometimes I'm like, huh. I can't decide how I feel about that because it feels like the bigger box is exciting.
Yeah.
And then I get this little thing, I'm like, oh, my mascara. Woo. Thanks for putting it in a box.
In a big box. It's anyway. Like that. And we'll wrap that box in a little box and a littler box and then we'll mail it to ourselves.
We diverge. It's the turkey.
But after Thanksgiving, you've got Black Friday. And one of the streaking shorts I talked about is the streak of Black Friday. Oh. That's been going on for, I think, 64 years. I have to look again. That's probably completely wrong. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize that. I honestly thought Black Friday being called Black Friday was a new thing.
It is.
But the after
it's been shopping for quite some time.
It's because in our minds, we think through Thanksgiving. Well, it used to be. Now we probably are thinking about Christmas a lot earlier. But as soon as Thanksgiving is over, you know Christmas is right around the corner.
Right. It's right there.
It's right there.
And so Black Friday has been known as Black Friday because it's the first time companies go in the black. I mean, that's one of the common held. I don't know if that's a myth or a reality, but that's one of the commonly held beliefs is one of it. It did start with a department store that was a little while back, Black Friday, that started with that whole thing the day after Thanksgiving shopping.
Oh, so they so some marketing genius
came up with it
out there,
and now it's tradition.
Now it's
Now we're beating down the doors, which is not anymore. Nope. And that's kind of so. We were talking a little bit about adversity on our last podcast, and the adversity of COVID has now taken away at least the riots of beating down the doors of trying to find a deal.
True. That's true.
That always just rubbed me a little bit the wrong way.
I know. I don't like that.
But would you go shopping at midnight on Black Friday? Did you ever do it?
At midnight. I've gone like at 3 or 4 in the morning, but I've never stayed up and gone through the midnight hour.
So you've gotten up early and gone with the girls. I've gotten
up early and gone with the girls, and it was fun. I will admit, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was fun to feel like you were there early. It was fun to have it be such a weird time and you're in the mall and all these people are there with you.
Now, I have a question. All these people, was there...
This was pre-COVID, obviously.
I know, pre-COVID, but the question that I had was, did you see a lot of men as well as women, or was it mainly women that were shopping?
That's a good question. There were still a fair amount of men.
I'm just curious. I have no idea. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I did feel like it was more women.
Those. I enjoyed being
You stayed home and
bed.
Slept. Yeah. But I did have fun shopping. It was a fun experience.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed it. Then we got breakfast, and it was fun. You feel like you gotta... Okay, the people I felt sorry for, though, to be honest, were the cashiers behind the people that were the cashiers and the people that had to come and repeatedly fold the clothes and put the stuff back on the shelf, because it did get messy. Yeah. People are like, just grabbing stuff and going. And
really?
Yeah, so the store. I've also gone Black Friday shopping like at 7 o'clock at night on Friday night.
And?
Which is a different experience because the store is slammed. And you can tell a lot of people have been there.
Right.
And the workers are tired.
Right.
But there's still deals and a lot less people.
Really?
I still got a lot of shopping done and still had a really great time.
And still had fun.
I did have fun.
It was enjoyable.
It was just a different kind of fun. But But it was,
because you're
anyway,
getting
we weren't
stuff
going to
done.
talk about Black Friday today.
Well, but that's, I mean, it leads us a little bit into where we're going to go, which is we're now into the giving season. So what I look at is before Thanksgiving is the thankful season. And not that we give that up after
No,
Thanksgiving.
we're still thankful.
Still grateful, still thankful, still looking at those things.
But now we express it through giving gifts.
Yes.
We
And
show our
now we have
gratitude
the
through
opportunity
giving
to
gifts.
show our gratitude through giving gifts. And that's where we wanted to go today and talk a little bit about with you is what streaking has given to us.
Yeah.
And the gift of streaking in our lives, because for 5 years, coming on 6 years now, we've kept several streaks alive, and it's really changed who we are at a core level to become more who we want to be. The nice part is I'm still aspiring to be that particular person and whoever it is that I want to be, yet I have now a operational system by which I can do that.
I agree. And I totally feel that same way, that I'm still completely aspiring to be the person I want to be. And that now I have a system in place that helps me, and also more confidence that I am making progress towards becoming that person.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm trying to think if there's any of my streaks. We've talked about this before where I'm like, have I arrived? I am proud of my journal streak. I have a tangible visual that I've completed a
Visual
lot
to the
of
point that
journals.
last night, didn't you start another new journal?
I did. I started another new journal, and I ordered like 5. And I was thinking about it, and I thought, that's great. I ordered more journals, and in the past, I would have felt like, don't do that. You don't even know if you're going to use them. They're just going to sit on your shelf. But I was able to order with complete confidence, knowing, oh, I know I'll fill those. And so that was kind of fun.
Because before, I remember you would talk about writing in your journal, and this is several years ago, and how you would feel guilty that you hadn't written in it. And you'd pull a journal out and you'd look at the last entry that you had, and you're like, oh, that was like 3 months ago or 6 months ago.
Sometimes worse. Sometimes it was like, that was like a whole child ago. I didn't even write down my experience of having that child.
But
it was hard.
So, however, since you've had your streak, you have not once talked about feeling that feeling of guilt. And I think that is, if I were to throw one gift your way that streaking is giving you, is relief from guilt.
Totally has been. And it's twofold. It's kind of an interesting thing because it's relieved the guilt, which the guilt does kind of one of two things. Sometimes that guilt prevents me from starting because it feels like it's overwhelming and it's too much, and I'm not going to be able to get to where I stop feeling guilty about it. Maybe that's it, is that there's too much to do.
Yeah.
So streaking has helped me be able to have that permission to have it be small. And then by being consistent, that guilt goes away. And then the cool thing now lately that has been happening with my journal is that I don't really question whether or not I'm going to write in my journal anymore. I know that I've got that streak, and I feel confident that I'm going to continue doing that because I keep track of it. And I hope nothing happens that I miss a day. But even if I did miss a day, I would start over and keep it going because I love that I'm doing this.
Right.
The thing that it's done is helped me. Now I've kind of moved to a new place where I look for different ways to keep my journal. Like I was reading the other day about the GLAD way of keeping a journal, where you write something you're grateful for, something you've learned, something you accomplished, and something you delighted in that day. And so every day you write GLAD, what you're grateful for, learned, accomplished, and delighted in. And I've loved that. It kind of added a new way of writing in my journal. And because I'm writing every day, it also helped me throughout the day to be thinking about that. Like something would happen, I'd be like, oh, I just learned this new thing. I'm going to write that in my journal because I can. So it's evolved to being even more than it ever was before. But that has happened because
consistency. But it's simple in the sense that it's still just one sentence a day and you win.
It totally. So I don't have to do GLAD every day.
No.
If I just write, I'm tired. I'm good today. Or maybe I just write, I'm glad. That's it.
I'm glad.
Done.
Or
drop the pen.
I'm going to do
I'm out of here
today. Or
I love you. I'm going to do today.
Well, GLAD.
This is why you love me, because I think you're funny.
Yeah. One of the things that I look at that I'm thinking about in my brain is the whole idea of habits, because we get questioned quite a bit on this. And the other day we were talking with Ann Bacharach on a podcast that will come out, I think in January is when she said it would be coming out.
I think so. She didn't give us a definite date, but it was fun to talk to her.
Oh my goodness. She is so absolutely insightful in some of the things that she's come across. She's been
a life
podcasting
coach.
for 10 years.
Yeah.
Has over 10 million downloads or something like that of her podcast, and just really enjoyable to talk to and to speak about and to expand on this whole idea of streaking. When we introduce streaking, one of the first thoughts that usually comes to people's mind is, oh, it's another way to do habits. And I know we've talked about this a lot before. As we explore this, and as you and I talk about it, we have found that, you know what, it's complementary to habits, but we're trying to figure out why people associate it with habits.
Well, and I was trying to, every time someone said that, oh, it's like another way to do habits, it was like stroking a cat backwards for me. It just
If you've never stroked a cat backwards, give it a try. Just see what happens.
Stroke that cat backwards and see how much they like that, what it feels like. That's what it felt like inside for me, as I was just like, stop, it's not a habit. But I remember stopping for a minute and being like, why does that bother me?
Right.
I mean, is it so bad? And so we've spent a huge amount of time talking about this. And I loved it that so what I did is and we've done this before, but I went to the dictionary. I'm like, okay, what is a habit? How is it defined?
Right.
And the thing that we found is that the thing that's interesting is that it's defined in basically kind of two different ways. Yeah. You can kind of bring it into two ways. One is an acquired mode of behavior. I'm reading from, where am I? The Merriam-Webster's dictionary.
Okay.
That's been around since 1828. So it's got some credibility.
It's got a streak
going.
It's
got some cred.
It's got streak cred.
Street cred.
Not street cred.
Not street.
Streak
cred. All right. First definition.
Oh, are they going to turn everything into a streak, really?
Okay, funny thing. We're on a text message with our kids the other day, and it was a fun family group text, and Dad Jeff mentioned something about streaking, and our oldest daughter was like, hey, Dad made it 3 whole texts before he turned it into streaking. Somebody clock it.
And so then I figured from there on out, I'm just going to, every text will have
every
streaking.
text is a streaking text.
So they asked me what one of my favorite scenes was in Lord of the Rings. And I said, the elves streaking through the woods.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are thinking the incorrect definition of streaking, doom on you.
That was a fun little.
Because what I was thinking about is, these great, fantastic elves that were consistent in their behavior through these magnificent scenery and woods. Anyway, that was Lord of the Rings.
I love that you're looking at the elves as being consistent.
They are. They're the most consistent race out there. Everyone else, Maybe the hobbits. Hobbits could be consistent, could look at as consistent, but the elves, they're the kings and queens of the forests. I mean, come on, really. If anyone aspired to be anything, wouldn't you aspire to be an elf
from Lord of the Rings?
Yes.
They do have great hair.
They do.
I'm going to give them that.
They're phenomenal hair. I mean, Legolas can go on any particular animal and do anything. I mean, their flexibility and also agility is absolutely phenomenal.
Yes, and they seem to be smart
Parkour masters.
Parkour masters. Where are we even going? Lord of the Rings.
I just wanted to let you know. Lord of the Rings.
Here we are.
Hey,
I was talking about
you went down
habits.
This path.
I did.
I'm
You're
just
right.
going with you.
I took you and you took it further. All right, here we go. We were talking about
So back to habits. Merriam-Webster, streak cred.
Habit entry definition number 1. An acquired mode of behavior that has become nearly or completely involuntary.
Which would indicate automatic.
Automatic. So
it's something I don't think about.
Something you do without thinking about.
I just do it.
Right. So that's kind of definition
that's number 1.
Definition number 2 is a behavior pattern acquired by frequent repetition, or a settled tendency or usual manner of behavior. So something you've done frequently, repeatedly.
Or that you're doing repeatedly.
Right.
Is that right?
Yeah,
I mean,
something
because
you're doing repeatedly.
What it's saying is you acquired it through doing it repeatedly,
yes.
Which
repetition.
I think is, you keep going because you had this kind of thought come
together.
So
I had this great kind of light bulb go off where I was like, hey, so this is the challenge. This is why it rubs me the wrong way with habit, is because we've got these 2 definitions out there. The one that says something you do without even thinking. It's automatic. You don't even think about it. It just happens. But then also the second definition, which is something that you do repeatedly. And I thought, there's things in my life. So I think what has happened to me and maybe to other people is that I felt like by doing definition number 2, if I do it repeatedly, it will become definition number one, something I don't have to think about.
I think that's been me. I have totally thought that way, is that I'm going to do definition number 2 in hopes that it becomes definition number 1. And then when it doesn't become definition number 1, I ultimately get frustrated.
Right.
And it's frustrated because motivation without application equals frustration. And so I have this motivation to say, I'm going to do this thing repeatedly. So for example, just taking into account your journal writing, you're going to do this repeatedly. And you have done it now repeatedly for 3 years, 4 years, whatever it is.
Right.
Every single day.
Every single day.
Would
or
you
you're
say,
flossing
though,
your teeth.
Yeah.
Yesterday was National Flossing Teeth Day. Just
Was
so
it
you know.
really?
I think so.
National Floss Your Teeth Day. That's awesome.
I know, you should just have taken a moment and then.
Actually, I know that because there's a short on National Flossing Teeth
Oh, good
Day.
job.
So,
What were you going to ask me about my journal?
well, the thing that I looked at is, so with the journal or with the flossing the teeth, you look at it and say, I've done this repeatedly. When is it just going to become automatic?
Right.
When will
is
I
it
not
gonna...
have to think about it? When will it be something that is involuntary, definition number 1? And I think that is the trap that I get into.
Mm-hmm.
And that is frustrating.
Right.
Because it doesn't ever become
It doesn't happen.
definition number 1.
Nope.
And so habit covers both these things.
Exactly, but they're not the same thing.
Yeah.
And so it created this kind of dissonance when people were like, oh,
Okay,
you're
so
just
I did
creating a
something.
habit. And I'm like, but not really.
I did something else. I posted on LinkedIn. I said, quick, give me your definition of a habit. And you know what's interesting? First person that answered said automatic. Second person that answered said something I do repeatedly. So both definitions are out
used kind of simultaneously, but we're talking about totally different things, I think. And so that's what I've loved about streaking is streaking came in and added a place, added this thing in between them.
Well, what I would say is it gave basically take definition number 2 and you move that to streak is something you do repeatedly.
Yep.
Habit is definition number 1, something that will become involuntary or that I do without thinking or that is automatic. So now I have streak and habit both complementing one another. And, you know, I get passionate about this. You get passionate about it. But why is it important that we understood that and that if you're listening to us right now, why is it important that you understand this? I mean, what is it about it?
Pick me. I know what it's done for me.
Yeah.
For me, it just, when I had this expectation, first of all, I knew that repetition of things was good, that if I wanted to become good at
repetition of good things.
Repetition of good things, sorry. Good things repeated is a good thing. Being able to be consistent and becoming who I want to be, I knew that being consistent and repetitive or doing the repetitions was good. Okay, that was a lot of words for some little sentence that I wanted to say.
You know what? The duct tape and baling wire came right out there. I mean, you taped it all together. You're good.
My point was being able to recognize that because the things that I was doing repeatedly weren't becoming automatic, wasn't a flaw in me. That it was never.
Pause right there. Was not a flaw in you.
Mm-mm.
And it wasn't a flaw in me.
Wasn't something we were doing wrong.
But you know what? There's so many times where we can look at the masters, the people that are successful, and think, well, they were just given something we weren't.
Mm-hmm.
And in other words, I have a flaw that I can't achieve that particular level. And what you're saying is not true.
Right. And being able to have a place to start where I'm like, okay, I'm going to start a streak and I'm going to start small. Because the laws of streaking are...
That's really powerful. Law number 1.
Make it laughably simple.
Law number
Start
2.
Small.
No record, no streak.
No record, no streak. Keep a record of it. Law number 3. Create a community.
That's really powerful. I'm just pausing. I'm kind of pausing a little bit on it because you just brought something together for me that I'd thought about. We'd kind of tiptoed around the edges of, but I hadn't really ever put it all the way together, which is when I was doing something repeatedly and it wasn't going to automatic, I blamed myself. I looked at myself and said, I'm flawed. I can't make this happen. Whereas what you're saying and what I think that streaking has done for us, the gift, is to say, no, you're not flawed. It's like what we talked about with Bowen on the last podcast, where he has dyslexia and he could look at that and say, I'm flawed. I can't do it the way that other people do it. But in reality, what he said was, no, I have to work harder, but I'm not flawed. I can do it. I just have to do it differently than someone else.
And I've got to figure out what works for me and be willing to work hard. And then the other gift that I feel like streaking has given me is patience. Being able to say, it's going to take time. It's going to take time to become the person I want to be. And I'm going to keep working at it. But to be patient, recognizing.
That's interesting. So we had, as I think about this and think about the gifts that streaking has given us, we'd love to hear from you on what gifts streaking has given to you, or the gifts of consistency in your life, if you're not necessarily doing the streaking methodology right now. But if you've looked at it and said, you know what, consistency has given me this particular thing, we'd love to hear about that and feature it on our podcast. Now,
we'd like to talk about
we
it this
won't
month.
mention your name if you don't want us to mention it. That's fine.
We
won't. But what we'd love to do is highlight it, because there are so many people who can benefit from what it is you have experienced in the gift of consistency. Much like Bowen on our last podcast experienced being able to read better because of consistency. In other words, one small rock into another little can, meaning that he had pronounced the word correctly, all of a sudden gave him this freedom that he had not previously experienced, but it came from small, repetitive actions that he still honestly has to work on all the time. That's why he has a streak of read at least one sentence daily, is because he's got to work on that. It's something that's there. So we'd love to hear from you on what those things are for you. Email me, Jeffrey, Jeffery, at streakingmastery.com, or
Jamie at JAMI at streakingmastery.com.
And let us know. Tell us what it is that the gift of streaking has done for you and how significant that is.
I'm excited to talk about this. I would like to do this the whole month of December, where we just talk about what gifts this has done for people in their lives.
I think that would be fantastic. In fact, it brings up a couple of other streakers that have emailed me recently. One talking a little bit about, they wanted to know how streaking has helped us in our marriage.
Oh,
and if it has, and if it's given us that gift. And another one that talks about, and we're going to talk about this one too, is the streak that is maybe not, it's a consecutive streak, but it's not daily or weekly. How do you work with that type of a thing? It seems a little bit odd, but we have talked a lot about this, and I think that there's not only answers, but really powerful answers on how to make that happen.
I agree. This is going to be a fun month.
This will be a blast. Well, happy Thanksgiving yesterday, or the day, actually a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas going forward. Happy New Year coming forward. Until next time,
keep streaking.
Go big or go home, they say, but I can show you a simpler way. It's the small and simple things that make the life we live worth living. Among the rush, do one push up, become a better you. It's the small and simple things that make you grow into what you're hoping. You're in a hurry, don't even worry. It's too simple not to do. It's the little things that make a better you. A better you.